Hey, what's up everybody? Over here at Hive number 2, about to get into them for another weekly inspection. It's Sunday, August 2nd, about 10:30. Heat index has the temperature over 100 degrees already, so I just finished up with Hive number 1. I go in order, of course, so over here at Hive number 2, like I said. Hive number 1, not to make this video about them, but I did find a frame with a queen cell, so I removed that into a nuke. So if you see me stealing a frame of brood and food and everything from Hive number 2, most likely I'll explain why, but I'm going to drop that into the nuke as well, and then eventually do the same thing with Hive number 3, because those additional 2 colonies look like they have a pretty good population of bees. I've been coming out in the evening, just kind of watching the front entrances and everything, and hives 2 and 3 have been bearding pretty heavily, which makes me assume they have a pretty decent population of bees. Alright, so weekly check. I added this medium box about 2 to 3 weeks ago. Yeah, probably 3 weeks. This will be the 3rd week. I filled up the division board feeder twice, so they've had about 2 gallons of 1-to-1 syrup. And last week, if you didn't watch that video, last week you could tell for the first time that they actually started drawing out a decent amount of wax on some of the frames in the medium box, which has, or had, 10 frames with new plastic foundation. So that's part of my weekly checks, which are about to turn into bi-weekly checks. There's no need to come out and inspect the hives weekly at this point, or this time of year, because the honey flows over. Swarm season should kind of be drawn down. So I'm also curious to see if I disturb them less often, if they actually do better. I don't know if you can tell that or not, but there is some nice wax being drawn out on some of those frames, which is exactly what I want to see, and which is why I also continue to feed them heavily. It's not to provide them with a food source to store food, it's to provide them with a food source, an immediate and abundant food source, so they can do this, so they can start drawing out some wax. So I added this box, like I said, about 3 weeks ago, or this will be the 3rd week, and they're on 2 gallons of sugar water, I believe, or maybe this is the 3rd. I'd have to look back in the previous videos, honestly. But they are doing exactly what I want them to do. So I'm just going to continue feeding them up until whenever I can't, because I want them to draw out this entire box for the queen to start expanding the brood chamber in, and for the bees to start using it as a food store. So yeah, they're working all the frames pretty nicely. Okay, so enough of that. Let's get down into the brood chamber. Some of these queens have been quite elusive lately, which makes inspecting interesting. And I found if I don't find them the first time going through, just to take my time, go back through them. I usually find the queen during the 2nd pass. So yeah, just need to remember to find a nice brood frame with eggs and everything. Make sure the queen's not on there, of course. And I'll drop that into the nuke. And hopefully in another 2 weeks or so, we can call that hive number 8 once they're queen right. It's a nice, little spotty with the brood and all, but they're trying to make do. And I imagine that's from all the newly supplied food. You can tell new wax, it's nice and white, looks real pretty. It starts to darken over time once they've had a few brood cycles. It's always interesting when you can hear the bees start to get agitated. Probably a good time for some smoke. Definitely looks like there's quite a few more bees than last time, which is what I've been expecting to see with the amount of brood that they've been producing. So I might steal this frame. It's got some nice honey stores at the top. Whole bunch of capped brood, a lot of nurse bees. So I'll just set that up. You know what, I know where it's at. It's the first one now. So I might come back to that and steal that to drop into the nuke. That's a nice frame as well. It might look a little spotty with the capped brood and everything, but there's a ton of pupated larvae down in the darker cells. It's got nice food stores as well. I can see some small pupated larvae down in some of these cells also. Yeah, this colony's actually rebounded quite well. They looked really good coming out of the winter, and then I believe they swarmed early in the spring, and it took them a long time to where I was getting concerned. A long time for them to become queen right. And I believe it took them a queen or two before they were happy with the one they produced and everything. And then she just kicked it into overdrive. Unfortunately, that whole time frame took the majority of the prime nectar flow, so I wasn't able to capitalize on this colony as far as making honey. But this was my #1 producer last year with that queen. That's a nice frame too. I might drop that into the... Oh yeah. Yeah, that's a nice frame. Might drop that into the nuke. That's what I was gonna say. Alright, 2 more frames. Queens have become pretty smart lately, hiding on some of the last frames. Knowing I'm inspecting the hives. A whole bunch of sunlight is introduced, and I think they just make their way far away from whatever's going on. See? Almost like clockwork. Alright, there she is right there. Let's put her back. There's nothing going on that frame. I think she's just trying to stay away from all the commotion. So I have two pretty good frames to use to move into the nuke. And with the amount of honey and food that's on this one, and brood and everything, yeah, I think I'm going to use this one. Alright, so that's what I'm about to do. I'm going to go put this in the 5-frame nuke, which is right in between hives 3 and 4. But yeah, they have 1 frame from hive #1 that has a nice amount of brood. This has a nice amount of brood too. And I'll grab one of those newer frames and move it into this hive. Okay, well, things are going as planned so far. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I owe them a frame. I got one right here. I coated all my frames about a month ago, probably at this point. I rendered a whole bunch of wax down and coated some of the newer frames I have. Thought it'd be interesting to make candles or soap or, you know, stuff like that, but I have quite a few frames that don't have any drawn wax, so I figured, you know, what not a better use than to use the actual wax from the hives, clean it up a little bit, and coat some of the frames with the wax. Alright, so I'll put this next to the food. Now, it's just a matter of making some room. Okay. Alright, let's top off the feeder. Put some sugar water right here. I'll definitely need more than that. Have a little spillage again. Alright, let's get them boxed up, smoke them down a little. Let's get them boxed up and everything. Call it a day. Alright, well, there you have it. Hive number 2's inspection is complete. A ton of nice brood, found the queen, and was able to move one of the very nice brood frames. There's a stinger on the lens. I'll get that later. There he goes. I was able to move one of the very nice brood frames into the second nuke, which I would like to call hive number 8 here in about 2 weeks, when hopefully that one queen cell hatches. And given the amount of brood that has yet to hatch, nurse bees, food, so on and so forth, hopefully that becomes a nice thriving hive. So yeah, that does it for number 2. They're looking good, plenty of bees, just like I was expecting to see, given how heavy they've been bearding in the afternoon and evenings. Alright, well, that does it for this week. Check us out on Instagram and Facebook, Cole's Farm NC. If you're on our YouTube channel, obviously you're watching this video. If you go up to the banner on the homepage, the other social media platform icons are in the top right. And if you haven't done so, appreciate it if you were to subscribe, and if you hit the bell, you'll receive notifications of future videos. And let's take a look at the front entrance, see what they're looking like. If you can believe it or not, it's even more crowded than this right now in the evenings when they're bearding, but that's kind of a typical post-inspection view of the front entrance. A little busy, a little chaotic, but they'll settle down in about 10 minutes. Alright, thanks for watching, everybody.